Hello all and welcome to a random video. Well, I guess you could say this applies to scrapping, maybe even more to metal casting because this is a shameless copy of a video I saw by Moose Scrapper about a week ago, I think. And even made a comment on his video saying I was going to shamelessly copy his idea. Well, it's not actually his idea, but he showed it, and I thought this is very brilliant, and this is going to save me a lot of hassle and a lot of space. So as you can see, I've put out just about all the copper and stuff that I've collected here. Now, I've actually been sorting it because it was all in one big bundle. I have solid core, quite thick wires in this one. This is all the stuff that comes from tube televisions or CRT televisions. And these are very hard and rigid compressed copper wires. There's not much to be done with this other than to maybe flatten them with a hammer to make them fit the crucible if melting. And well, if you were into turning these in for profit, for just for money, then the whole compressing is maybe not that interesting. But when unraveling coils and stuff, you get a lot of this, and some bundles are small. If you get like tiny little spools to unwrap and stuff, you get little bundles. But sometimes I think this is quite a huge bundle. It was all covered in basically this stuff, this goop that I took off, and yeah, it turned into like a big pile of spaghetti basically. And got my degaussing cables from CRT televisions over here. Now again, these are quite thick and tightly bundled, so not that interesting to compress these even further. And I'm not sure if that actually will work because these are quite sturdy, thick wires. Some of these are thinner, so these might be interesting to compress and unravel and just put in the pile with this. Maybe I will do that. Same as this thing. This was one of the yoke cables, I think, but this is quite soft. And then there's this stuff. This looks like something completely different, but this is actually tin plated or tin covered copper. I shaved at this with very gently with some sanding papers. Quite difficult to see on camera, but this is copper wire or copper mesh that was a round wire. That I actually got this whole bag from a nice guy in my building who does some volunteer work here and there, all different odd jobs, and he knew about my metal melting. He said I have a big bag of I think it's aluminium, he said, but it's apparently copper, tin-plated copper. Now that's interesting because in CRT televisions there's these wires. These are also tin-plated copper. But as you can see, this whole bag takes up a hell of a lot of space. But the main reason for this video and what I copied off Moose Scrapper is this thing. Let me get the hammers aside here and set you up here. A bit further off. There we go. So I got my tree stump nicely set up here. This is basically, I think these are not 2x4s but 2x3s. I made this design based off what Moose Scrapper did, just exactly the same. Sanded down this one a bit so it and left it slightly longer than the other two so you can easily take it out. Now what you do is you cram copper wire in here, those bundles, and then set it on here for stability, and you put this in there, hammer on it, and then you make like basically these size little copper bricks of wire, and that saves a hell of a lot of space. And these things are quite easy to put in crucibles if you're melting stuff. Now, like I said, for turning them in to the scrapyard might not be that interesting, unless you have a hell of a lot of, well, basically this crap. But that's basically number 2 copper. Also have quite a bit of this stuff, by the way. This is shielding from very thick coax cables. Now you can basically try to flatten every bit you get like this. It's quite a lot of work. I am going to be cramming that in here as well and seeing what that does. And I think some places actually qualify this as number 3 copper, which E-Waste Mike told me, and I actually never heard of number 3 copper. Only know about number 1 and number 2. So let me get a bundle set up in here and see what we can do. Stand on the other side. So basically this bundle is going to be, let's see if we can get that in there. Now, and when this is all compressed and hammered in, it's going to be stuck in here somewhere, of course. But then you have to unscrew the bottom and get that all out. Let me see if I can get this in. There you go. You can't really tell because light and stuff. That looks good. Because I will be making wire ingots or something resembling ingots. There you go. Well, let's now take the screws out and see what we have made. Look at this nice little block of a wire. Almost feels solid. So let's get this out here. And I immediately see an issue. There we go. Because this stuff is rounded, wires get in between here. But anyway, can always put this back in and re-squash this. This is now a nice and tight little bundle. And this will take up way less space. And this will fit in the crucible just like this, and it will be a lot easier to melt because it's all more tightly packed. So let me get the bottom back on and then try some of the copper plating. Just cram that in there. This stuff is quite sharp, so I might actually cut myself, like has happened many times before. There we go. This might not stick together as well as wires, but we will see. This might actually work pretty well. I'm going to put in some more. There we go. Now, if you use smaller quantities every time, you might even get it compressed better. This is just for show and tell, basically. See if we can get this out here. Is that in the shot? Yes. So like one of those car compactors that turns cars into cubes. There we go. Yeah, some of the small parts falling out. That was to be expected. But again, a nice, you can fold the edges a bit. A nice compact cube for in the crucible. As you can imagine, this is a lot better than the pile like that here. So yeah, I'm going to be doing the rest of this and just trying to get some cubes like this, and I will do the rest in the box, and I will do the bag of tin plated copper wire and show you the results when these are all done. Here we go, last bit of this stuff. Nope. Well, there's one. I don't think everything will be stuck together. And I can probably even put that in again, if this is enough sideways, and just flatten it like this maybe. I am going to need to get like bigger screws for this, because when hammering the bottom almost fell off. So yes, that's the last of this stuff. Let's continue with the fine copper wire. Another nice little wire ingot. Alright, let's see if I can make some colored ones. I got some green and red wire in there. Let's see what we can make from that. Still smaller than I expected. I keep thinking, oh, this is going to be a huge block, but no. There's some orange bits in there, that doesn't matter. A nice red colored block. So let me do all the rest. Right, so the end result of this project here. This box was completely full of just copper wire and spools and stuff. This has some small odds and ends in there that I didn't take. This was basically also completely full, and this one was also completely full. What's in there now is the thick solid cable and the quite tough degaussing cables, really big ones that I'm not going to compress because that's probably too much work. That's some extruded aluminium and sheet aluminium in there, I think. These things I will have a look at in detail later. I tried one to maybe get it to bend a bit and whacked it with a hammer, but this is all quite annoying stuff. But I will try to at least flatten them out. I found quite some of it I already had separate, but this is actually copper clad aluminium. So basically aluminium wire with a copper layer on it. Kind of like the opposite of this stuff, because this is copper wire that has a tin layer around it. So I'm going to be separately melting this, see if I get some, I don't know, bronze maybe. This was all the shielding that came from the big coax cable that I stripped off camera before I started on compressing all of this stuff. And all of the smaller, thinner wire is now all here. There's some red stuff, some green stuff, and most of it's orange. So this box isn't even slightly over halfway full. Not even 2/3, I would say. So this saves quite a bit of space. And my device here, very happy with how this works. Copper pipes, by the way, is a different thing, so I'm just going to be flattening them on my anvil. So a big thank you to Moose Scrapper. He deserves way more credit than he gets. So I'm now going to have to clean this place up because there's tiny bits of wire everywhere. So this was awesome, and I'll see you on the next one.